So in this segment, we're going to do a very long and semi-messy video on the situation around Diane Abbott, but more specifically, we're going to focus more on Frank Hester, the Tory donor, who made incredibly racist, in my opinion, incredibly racist remarks towards Diane Abbott. And, you know, this is a guy who's a very large donator to the Conservative Party, and they're not going to give back the money. Obviously not, you know, they're the Conservative Party at the end of the day. And this whole situation just really exposes them for the party that they are, that they talk about diversity and things like that. But at the end of the day, money wins, as always, regardless of the statements he has made.
Frank Hester allegedly said that, and I want to get this quote right, "I don't hate all black women at all, but I think she should be shot." Is that an extremist view?
Well, speaking as someone who was pursued by an individual who was trying to kill me and who subsequently succeeded in killing one of my friends in Parliament, I take that sort of language very seriously, and I think it's unacceptable.
I'm sorry, that's not quite what I asked. Is that an extremist view, and would it fall under these new rules, these new definitions of extremism? I can repeat the quote for you if you wish again.
Well, I take these things exceptionally seriously, and because I take them seriously, it would be the case that any assessment about whether or not an individual or an organisation is extremist would have to follow a rigorous process.
This is literally a guy saying, you know, he says, "I don't hate all black women at all, but I think she," talking about Diane Abbott, "should be shot." Like, if that's not an extremist view, I don't know what is. Calling for the murder of someone, genuinely. But their defences are, you know, it's got to go through process and whatever, and their better argument, not the better arguments, the main arguments they're gone for is, oh, he's apologised. Well, he didn't apologise, I think, for his actual statements. He apologised for being, quote, rude. He didn't really apologise for the racism. So we're going to cut to Kemi Badenoch, and she's... Yeah, you know what, she said, like, I think she originally said the statements were racist, and she's kind of backpedaled a little bit on some of the stuff.
So forgive me, would you be comfortable with the party accepting any further donations from this man?
I think if somebody has apologised and the comments appear to have been, first of all, very flippant, said a long time ago, I think it is fine for us to be able to accept and forgive and draw a line under it, yes. And that does mean that we treat those people as we would do. Obviously, if something else happens in the future, that might be something that we reconsider. But for now, yes, I think that it is absolutely...
Flippant comments a long time ago. Like, he made the comments on the 11th of March. It's not like he made these comments like 15, 20 years ago. Like, even back, if he made these comments a decade or two ago, like, it would be inexcusable, but, you know, these comments came out around the 11th of March. This is when the original Guardian article broke, I think. He goes, you know, they've got the quote here. So it doesn't make sense, especially when he's received taxpayers' money. You know, Hester, a businessman from West Yorkshire, runs a healthcare technology firm, the Phoenix Partnership, which has been paid more than £400 million by the NHS and government bodies since 2016. So he pays the Tory party, you know, tens of millions, and he receives more than £400 million in taxpayers' money. This is wild. He has access to people's medical records and things like that as well. His company does. This is absolutely wild. And the Tory party's response is, oh, you know, these are flippant comments. Like, no, these are clearly something someone has thought about. And cut to Kemi again.
Didn't he at least have to accept the comments were racist, the donor himself?
I think he's apologised for them.
But he hasn't accepted
we've
they're
answered
racist,
these questions. I have.
I mean, that's probably the worst apology you can give. You should acknowledge you say, I'm sorry. So sorry for what?
Spoken to him, but we've been talking about this for well over a week now. This is trivia, Nick. I'm sorry, but I really do believe it is. If you look,
you know, a person calling for, you know, saying a sitting MP should be shot, that's trivia. That's old news. Like, this is what the Tories do. It's whenever there's a bad thing on their side, is they just gaslight, delay, stall, say, oh, you know, it's not an issue, oh, they've apologised, we need to move on. But as soon as someone from the other side says something, they're like, no, this is really bad, someone needs to do something, oh my God, someone please think of the children, stuff like that. This is honestly just wild.
Look at the work that this government has been doing to tackle racism. You look at the really serious issues that people have.
What have the Tory party done to tackle racism? Genuine question.
Around violence, around life chances, what this man may or may not have said 5 years ago in private.
I can't, genuinely, I've read through the Guardian article, right? It doesn't mention anything about these comments being made 5 years ago in private. So unless the Guardian have omitted that, or maybe that come out later, I don't know. But we don't, like, she's saying these are alleged comments anyways. So I don't know how she's getting a timeline out of alleged comments.
In a casual reference, racist though the comments as reported were, I'm afraid is not really in the high priorities of how we deal with racism in this country.
So, you know, accepting money from racists, fine. Okay. Like, I don't get, especially when he's receiving taxpayers' money on top of that. It's just, it looks incredibly corrupt, but also extremely dodgy, given the comments he made. And this has kind of annoyed some of the other Tory party donors as well.
Will you be giving any more money to the Conservative Party?
Not for now. I'm holding the checkbook back because there are lots of problems that the CCHQ has to, first of all, sort out before I open my checkbook.
Do you think that how do you think the Prime Minister has dealt with this over the past few days?
So I think it's been an absolute disgrace. But before that, let me just say one thing. I have lived in this country for a long time. I went to school here, went to university here, had jobs here. I had never, ever saw any form of racism until the Conservative Party and the CCHQ. That was my first experience of institutionalized racism. And it's so sad to see the party behave in this way. I think that Rishi fudged the issue.
And this is something he's been accused of by, I think there was one of the deputy editors at the Financial Times said the same thing. He's shown a real lack of leadership here, which he has done. Because he's gone for the Boris Johnson defence of deflect and delay, but it's just not working for him. You can see his ministers they just can't, this stuff is so bad that they're struggling to kind of keep a straight face, which is what happened under the Johnson administration.
Should have taken it head on in the beginning. We should not have had to wait till Kemi Badenoch to say and call out racism. It was racist. And my deep question is, do the spots on a leopard ever change? Is it enough for somebody to say, even if it's not an apology, that I apologize? Does that really mean that the spots of a leopard have changed? I think that there are fundamental structural issues in the party. I think that the treasurers have overstayed their time in the party. I think they need to resign. I think fresh people have to come. And then I go back to my first point, which is that we need to cap donations. We cannot allow political processes to be hijacked by the richest, and they then call the shots. And here in Washington, I was asking myself, I faced a similar issue, which I still continue to face. Nobody in the party ever came to my rescue. Why? Is it because I'm non-white?
He's right there. The Conservative Party have had serious issues to answer for a while now. And this is a big party donor here. He doesn't donate as much as Frank Hester, but this person here, Mohammed Amasri, he's a large party donor, and this is going to turn off people like him and other party donors. So I do wonder how... there's no way CCHQ can fix this, because the Tory party, by the sounds of it, based on stories that come out sort of towards the end of last year, are not doing well financially. Not doing well at all. So, they might be able to, keep a lot of the Frank Hester money, but in an election year especially, if a lot of the other donors leave, it's going to put them in a really awkward spot. It's just a question of where will people like this person here, Mohammed Amasri, will put his money. Or will he just not finance any of the parties? That's the real question. Rishi Sunak facing leadership questions. The mood in the Conservative Party is dark and is noticeably darkened. Why last week was not a good week for Sunak, to say the least. First, Lee Anderson leaving, but also the Frank Hester comments. It's true that the Conservative Party are looking very fragile right now. Especially if Farage, I think, comes back to mainstream politics. I think he's going to eat away at the Tories really badly. This from Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party have accepted a £10 million donation from an individual who has said that one of our parliamentary colleagues in this chamber should be shot. Why is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom putting money before morals?
Mr. Speaker, as I said, the comments were wrong. The gentleman in question has apologised for them, and that remark...
And this is where they gaslight, because he didn't really apologise for the comments he made. He apologised for being rude.
...should be accepted.
Stephen Flynn! This is complete rubbish. The gentleman in question apologised for being rude. He wasn't rude, he was racist, he was odious, and he was downright bloody dangerous. Now, on Monday, the number 10 said, we've seen an unacceptable rise in extremist activity which is seeking to divide our society and hijack our democratic institutions. Isn't extremism that we should all be worried about? The views of those Tory donors that we've read about this week.
So, you know, he's finished him. It's genuine. This is it. What are the views of the Tory party donors, honestly? Because these are people who do have a lot of, a disproportionate control over our politics. These are really good questions that Stephen Flynn asked just there. Lindsay Hoyle kind of fumbling really badly by not picking on Diane Abbott to speak at PMQs, even though she kept standing up. A lot of the excuses, the speaker claimed that they ran out of time, but it's incredibly embarrassing. He's fumbled twice in as many weeks now. And kind of SNP kind of jumping on it as well. But, I wouldn't say this is political opportunism from them either, given that, the speaker's record just isn't good. It's not good at all. This from Dr. Khan saying, words matter. We've had 2 MPs who have been murdered. There has to be accountability, and that's true. We have had 2 MPs murdered over the last decade. It's not good at all. And, one of the key questions is that, we saw Tory donors' comments make headlines and debates on foreign governments owning British newspapers, The Spectator and the other paper, I can't remember which one it was. How much do we know about the people who spend money to be involved in UK politics, which is a good question. How much do we actually know about these party donors? We don't know a lot. And one of the questions is that, the Tories make a big deal, as this person points out, Alex. I'm not going to pronounce the second name because I'll butcher it, but the Tories make a big deal about the unions kind of donate money to the Labour Party. So if they're claiming that the unions have a massive impact on the Labour Party, surely people like Frank Hester must have the same or even more of an impact on the Tory Party, given that the amount of money that he donates. And Jeremy Hunt being asked about this, classic, he's apologised. He kept saying he's apologised. Conservative Party record speaks for itself. Yeah, it does. It's awful. And so, yeah, this is their defence. It's just deflect. That's all it is.
You would judge when anybody's making a donation, is this person the right kind of person to be making a donation? Is somebody racist? And the
answer is?
As far as I know Mr. Hester, I don't know him from what he said. He accepts his comments were wrong and they were racist.
He said rude. He accepts his comments were rude. I don't think he accepted his comments were racist.
And he's apologised for them. So I don't think that means Mr. Hester is a racist, but that's a judgment others will make if somebody wants to make a donation.
He can say racist things, but he himself is not racist.
Well, if you say racist things and don't apologise for them, that would make you a racist. But I think if you say something racist and then apologise, that's a different thing, I think.
It's just embarrassing. This is honestly Boris Johnson era stuff where he'd send out ministers and they'll say the most stupid things, like when they had to defend Dominic Cummings and over him driving around despite having COVID, and then Michael Gove saying, well, I failed my driving test 5 times, and you're like, bro, what the hell? What relevance does that have? So this argument of, oh well, if he said something racist and then apologised, that's a different thing. Like, he got called out badly. If it's the case that, he made these comments 5 years ago, as Kemi Badenoch made out, and then he apologised after the backlash, that's not really him apologising for the comments, it's him trying to avoid the backlash. This from Starmer at PMQs.
We also learned that the Right Honourable Member for Maidenhead will be taking her well-deserved retirement.
See you, chump.
She has served this House and her constituents with a real sense of duty, and her unwavering commitment to ending modern slavery is commended by all of us. We thank her for...
She also ran away from people at Grenfell Tower as well. Let's not idolise Theresa May here. Let's not idolise Theresa May. And, Starmer putting credit on her name. What's his source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Yeah, no respect for Theresa May.
Her service. Is the Prime Minister proud to be bankrolled by someone using racist and misogynist language when he says the member for Hackney North and Stoke Newington makes you want to hate all black women?
Mr. Speaker, The alleged comments were wrong, they were racist, and he has now, as I said, the comments were wrong, they were racist. He has rightly apologised for them, and that remorse should be accepted, Mr.
Okay, so we need to see, you know, when the Tories kind of try and attack Labour and stuff, right? All Labour have to say is, well, they've apologised and shown remorse, and that's it. That's all. Whenever the Tories attack Labour on any kind of missteps or, you know, alleged missteps, they should say, oh, well, you know, they apologised, we should move on. That's what you guys keep saying. This is honestly just embarrassing. Each one of these clips, you know, Jeremy Hunt, you know, responding to questions. Thank you to her. I don't think this clip's that important anyways, but it's just him saying, you know...
We absolutely are transparent. We follow all the rules, the regulations. We believe in that transparency.
I don't think there are any specific regulations on having not racist people donate money to your party.
Transparency. Many of the laws about it we actually passed ourselves, and the Conservative Party fully complies with all the requirements to be transparent about our donations.
I mean, there's a difference between something that's legal and something that's moral. You can argue taking money from someone who's made some very racist comments is legal, but the question is it moral? What kind of impact does it have on your party in terms of policies, given what he has said about not just Diane Abbott, but other minorities as well? And, you know, what's the Tory party response? Yeah, of course they can take the money.
If Mr Hester today said, right, I'd like to give you another £10 million, would you take it?
Well, on the basis that we don't believe Miss Hester is a racist, yes. But I've got to say, all these people I spoke to yesterday, I spoke to members of the public and postmasters and many other people, nobody mentioned this story to me in terms of the context of what we're trying to do, which is overturn.
I mean, the postmasters would be concerned on their situation, so this argument makes no sense. And what have you done to fix the situation with the postmasters? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Convictions and pay people compensation. That's what I'm really focused on, and I think quite right.
You're not doing a good job then, are you, mate?
So let's just be absolutely clear. Yesterday, the Prime Minister said that this man's alleged comments were racist and wrong, and you say if this same man wanted to give another £10 million today to the Conservative Party, you'd take the money.
Yes, I understand the situation, yes.
Just absolutely wild, honestly. And to be fair, he's donated, apparently, another £5 million to the Tory party, and it's not clear whether they've cashed that money or not. But I think it's sat in their account, and it's going to be counted at some point soon. But this is some more stuff on this.
In the Asian community, it was when he first got in as Prime Minister, it was like, great, you know, this is...
Talking about Sunak.
This is great for all British Asians, but I want to see more from him. I don't think I can relate my experiences to him from what I've seen.
This is one of the keys here. You know, when people talk about the need for diversity and things like that, like even myself as a British Asian person, there's no way I can relate to Sunak. Not in terms of his upbringing. Of course, like, you know, he grew up rich, like went to private school. I you know, it's very hard for most people to even relate to that. But in terms of how he's dealt with kind of this party donor who has said some incredibly racist things, not just to members of the black community, but members of the Asian community as well. And their defense of, well, he's hired ethnic minorities, so it's okay. It's like, what the hell? Like that's genuinely one of the worst defenses I think I've heard. So, you know, the caller here makes a lot of sense.
This and other events that have happened recently, do you think they're having damage in terms of the Conservative Party's reputation with ethnic minorities?
Definitely for me personally. I've been a kind of long-term Conservative voter.
Is that right?
I'm starting to doubt whether I would again.
Is really
well,
so
at this point.
The events of this week have perhaps pushed you over the edge.
Yeah, I'd say last straw type thing. Not just this week, but as I say, previous, and this is perhaps the tipping point.
Because previously, people like David Cameron had made it very clear, made it their mission that British Asians, others are very welcome in the Conservative Party. You're not feeling that so much now?
Well, one of the things I think David Cameron did is give certain ethnic minority, MPs from certain minority backgrounds safer Tory seats so that they could have more of a chance of staying in the party as well. Which again is helpful for diversity, but like diversity is more than just having people of different backgrounds and different genders in the party. It's about diversity of thought as well and being listened to. And given that we know how the Tories have treated the Muslim community, It's not great, especially even their own Muslim MPs. Baroness Wallace has been all over this kind of stuff, but there's been other cases as well. It's more than just diversity for the sake of it. You don't get anywhere by doing that. We have a Tory MP. We have a Prime Minister who's from an ethnic minority background who has done nothing, absolutely nothing, but defend someone who's made racist statements. Honestly, what does that say for diversity?
Absolutely. It's not that they were not welcome. I don't think that's the way. I think it's just more what action and decisiveness I'd like to see from the leader of the party. Yes, it's great that you've got a diverse cabinet and it's something to shout about, but it shouldn't be something that is just a tick box.
That's perfect. He's right. It shouldn't be just something that's just a tick box. There's a couple. I think there's one or two more I want to go through.
Story, which was a shameful episode. Guardian reported it. Took place. The reported comments were made several years ago. That was an unalloyed bad piece of news. Do you think it was handled well by the leadership?
I think all these sort of things could certainly be handled better. And you're right, the sort of drumbeat of bad news hasn't been helpful whatsoever. I put my hand up and make that very, very clear. But all I say is the bigger picture, as we're focusing on towards the next general election, what Mark said about other parties not having a plan, it's actually true, because we've not heard what that plan is. They don't get to be scrutinised on the front page or indeed on your show, because we spend so much time talking about the infighting that takes place within our party.
Maybe given that you're in government, the infighting is very prevalent. Given that you've taken money from someone who's made those sorts of comments, maybe that's an important thing to discuss, especially when these people have influence on the party and also receiving taxpayers' money. Genuinely, the arguments the Tory party are making is, this was done, these comments were old, we should just move on, he's apologised and blah, blah, blah. It's just, this is the way they gaslight people. This is how they gaslight the public. This is how they get away with stuff. This is the kind of stuff Trump used to do all the time. I didn't say those comments. Then he would say even if I did say them, they're not racist. It's like, okay, I said them, but they're not racist. Okay, they're racist. What you can do about it? And they just drag out issues, and they stay mired in endless scandals, and it turns people off to it. They kind of become numb to this kind of stuff. This argument is making is so embarrassing.
And it's actually true, because we've not heard what that plan is.
Let's go back a little bit.
Bad news hasn't been helpful whatsoever. I put my hand up and make that very, very clear. But all I say is the bigger picture, as we're focusing on towards the next general election, what Mark said about other parties not having a plan, it's actually true, because we've not heard what that plan is. They don't get to be scrutinised on the front page or indeed on your show.
I mean, didn't they scrutinise Labour over the breaking of the £28 billion green energy pledge? I'm sure they did that. They criticised them. They kept asking Labour, how are you going to fund it? And then Labour fumbled it. There's a reason why they abandoned certain key pledges. It's because they couldn't defend them in the media. So this argument of Labour aren't being scrutinised, it's complete garbage.
Because we spend so much time talking about the infighting that takes place.
Maybe do less infighting, big man. If you don't want people to criticise you as much, stop giving them reasons to criticise you. This is honestly, it's just like, well, if you guys didn't focus on our flaws so much, it's like, stop having so many flaws, stop having so many issues. This again, it's just another Tory MP saying they're not going to give the money back, and then someone else saying, so basically 15 million gives you a blank check for racism, which is true. We'll talk about this story in another time when I get time to do videos about MPs getting inflation busting pay rises. But I thought this whole situation is worth talking about. There are other angles that we could talk about, how Labour have kept the whip away from, withdrawn the whip from Diane Abbott 11 months ago, and despite other MPs being quote investigated by the Whip's office, even though that's not an independent investigation, it's up to the leadership. They can restore the whip at any point. This idea of there's an independent investigation going on is a nonsense. Is a nonsense. What kind of independent investigation takes 11 months anyways for a start? Especially when you had certain other MPs like Steve Reed make anti-Semitic comments when he called someone of Jewish heritage. I don't know if they, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But it's definitely someone of Jewish heritage. He called them a puppet master, which is an anti-Semitic slur. Steve Reed apologised and was let back into the party. He didn't face any kind of repercussions. So, like I said, the whip can be given back at any point. So, again, like, you know, there's a lot of angles we could talk about. You know, the only positive I can think of from this is people are talking about the situation Diane Abbott, which is she's had the whip withdrawn, and, you know, the stories around Labour saying they can restore the whip to her, but she'll have to stand down at the next election. Like, it's just so stupid, some of the stories going around. Sometimes you're not sure which ones to believe, which ones not, but that one wouldn't surprise me about Labour saying we'll restore the whip, but you need to stand down in the next general election. But what I'd love for her to do is say, yeah, sure, I'll do that, and then just not do it. That's what I'd love to see, honestly. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.